Becoming more specific and saying, has he ever talked to you audibly? No.
Okay, fine.
Yes. But there is another means of speaking because we're dealing with God, right? He doesn't have to speak like us, right? So it says in Romans, and this is what my experience is, right? In Romans 8, it says, Romans 8.
You don't remember? Wow.
No, I remember the words, but I don't remember the verse. That's it.
Just tell us the words then. What do you think?
Verse 6.
Able to lie constantly with impunity to a captured audience that you've convinced that like you're the only true source of information because everybody else is bought. So I treat every independent journalist with an immense amount of suspicion.
Well, Kevin, your sentiment would ring true until COVID happened, and then it seemed like every single media company lied to a bunch of people's faces.
They were mostly correct about everything. Yeah, that's actually, no, I completely disagree with
Kevin, just wait. Think about this. Because we talked about Joe Rogan, if everyone remembers, took ivermectin and people called it a horse dewormer, not saying the actual, like, yeah, it has been used as a horse dewormer, but they weren't saying that there was actual health benefits, that the reason why he was taking it, right? And they literally almost got sued based off of it, but then they decided to all redact. This was on CNN.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
if that's the best example, you're gonna have to do better.
That's not. That's just one.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's you went for that one. I mean, at the time, I thought that it was a little bit of a. Wait, real quick, I'll just address that one. I thought that was a cheap shot for sure, but it's not incorrect. I mean, it's like. Really, the point is that it's an anti-parasitic drug that you're using to treat a coronavirus, and that it hasn't been proven to be effective. There's been like the only studies, like I've looked at all. This is what I mean. So you can like poke fun at the media for calling it a horse dewormer, but I've looked at all of the studies that people reference, and they're one of two types of studies. You have these non-randomized cohort studies where you're looking at groups of people in like third world countries, and many of them are likely to do better with COVID if they are on like ivermectin, probably because people in those countries have lots of parasites. But there was no like double-blind prospective studies, and then the other studies that you have with ivermectin are like cell studies or in vitro studies where you are able to like kill pathogens and kill cancer cells, but only at extremely high doses that would literally kill a person. So like yes, you would kill the coronavirus if you gave someone enough ivermectin to kill them because they'd be dead.
Yeah. No. Again, Kevin. That's not the point. My point was that they called.
So that's a win for mainstream media. That's a win for mainstream media.
But again, that's just one. That's just the Joe Rogan example. But there's also the example of when they had to pay what was it, like over like $50 million to that family of the kid who drum in front of an Indian. Do you remember this story? He wore a MAGA hat.
Yeah. That was
they lost a defamation lawsuit based off of this. And then,
that was a good ruling. That was a good ruling.
Yeah, and then Fox News lost a defamation lawsuit, if everyone remembers, about the voter. $800 million. Yeah. But
listen, both of these examples are them being held accountable. So I don't think it proves the point.
Alex Jones is held accountable. You lost defamation.
Oh my God! Well, I'd say that when you're dealing with, he was only able to be held accountable because he had assets worth going after. He was one of the largest alternative media personalities. All of these like little tiny media people you see online, these like 10K, 50K follower people who collectively make a lot of noise and spread around a lot of misinformation. There's no point in trying to litigate after them. They don't have the fucking money. It's not like most of them will never be held accountable. Mainstream media is far more likely to be held accountable than alternative media.
Well, yeah, again, if you have a small following, you won't be held accountable. But this man, Ian Carroll, does have a large following. He has, I think, a few million people follow him on Twitter. And he's been on a bunch of large YouTube channels now. But so I want to talk about this because he came on and he made a really interesting claim. And I wanted to see.
Was it about 9/11 or the USS Liberty?
No. No, but that's a fun one. No, which the 9/11 is more conspiracy. USS Liberty is not conspiracy. It's just.
Well, yeah, I mean the Israeli government like apologized for it and paid money for it.
Yes, but
so really no conspiracy there.
But they're one of the only countries to ever attack and kill U.S. troops and not be penalized through actual military action, which is a very interesting thing. But
wait, Keegan, that's one of the kinds of claims that you probably heard someone say and then never actually bothered to check.
Oh no! Why are you looking at how many times has countries attacked a military vessel, whether it's a military base or a military unit, and see what countries we have not gone to war over because of that?
I can point to one example of Iran striking one of our bases following our assassination of Soleimani, and we didn't respond. As a matter of de-escalation, we kind of figured we got one of their guys. They gave us warning. They hit one of our bases. We let it slide. That's just off the top of my head. I'm sure I can.
Did any U.S. Well, again, that's also because we attacked one of their guys. We didn't. What did we do to Israel? guy took a phone call. Bad comparison. Meme, what's going on, Meme? Memes? Are you just reporting or are you engaging?
Yeah.
Did you listen to the Joe Rogan Experience?
With who?
With Ian Carroll.
He had Ian Carroll on there?
He had Ian Carroll on there.
Whoa.
And they talked about, and what I've been saying on Twitter, I've not watched all of it. I'm about an hour and a half in. But I thought, you know what, after an hour and a half in, I would love to see what people are thinking. Mm-hmm. Because they mentioned a story, because they start talking about Jeffrey Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about how Jeffrey Epstein has ties to the Mossad, how his father had ties to the Mossad, how a lot of the people who backed money, whether it was a Victoria's Secret owner or Maxwell's family, all have tied to Israel and Mossad. And Jeffrey Epstein, he made the claim, Ian Carroll made the claim that Israel, because it's the Mossad, should be held accountable for at least some form of like, you know, being involved in a sex trafficking ring. Mm-hmm. And people thought that was anti-Semitic. And I thought, I don't know if it has true, like, if, let's say the Epstein files do get released. I'm not saying they ever will, but if they do, and we do find that he had connection with the Mossad, and the Mossad was in with all this blackmailing he was doing, or honeypotting that they were doing, should they not be held accountable? What would you think?
Well, I've heard Alex Jones say that the CIA is the biggest purveyor of child pornography as well as honeypotting, and that they make the Mossad and the Israeli government look like amateurs because we are the Disney of entrapment and honeypotting, and no one does it better than our intelligence services. That's what Alex Jones says. Now, I can show you an article of an actual hotel that was run by the CIA for honeypotting just in the past couple of years. I can also show you a CIA employee who was recently sentenced to jail for raping well over 100 people. Do you remember that guy?
I do remember that story, which is a crazy story.
Crazy.
That is crazy. And now, I do agree that the CIA, I mean, you got to think, right? I remember when the CIA, I was reading an article about how did the CIA get started, and was it Eisenhower who was under, right, that the CIA started under?
Yeah, I mean, it was World War II.
Yeah, I think it was Eisenhower that started under them. So Eisenhower, he said what the goal was for the CIA is that he wanted to be able to publish in the public. He wanted like a newspaper where everyone could get the information that was going on around the world based on our intelligence. And the CIA was like, well, actually, we're going to do covert operations. That's what we want to do. And that's how it divulged into what it now has become, which you're absolutely right, is the Disney of sex trafficking. And maybe the Mossad is just Nickelodeon.
I mean, listen, the fact that fucking Mila Kunis's husband, Ashton Kutcher, testified before Congress, was the administrator for like this large child, trafficking and content smut, database. And he had to resign his position because of his connection with Danny Masterson from that 70s show, who was a Scientologist who, viciously beat and raped women. So I would say it's not like a country problem. I would say it's like a person problem because countries are so conceptual. What we really have is a human problem, like very immoral, unethical people who feel emboldened to do these types of things and that they can get away with it and treat people with disrespect. So justice, is always right around the corner for somebody who knows they, committed wrong and never received, justice or made amends or atonement. So I would just say that, like, I like the conspiracy theories communication, but to me, I don't even think it's a question of anti-Semitism. I think people, take somebody's religion or ethnicity out of the equation and just say, okay, this person is guilty of these things. I don't really care what somebody's geographic proximity is or what their religion is, based on their proximity. So that I just think it's like I'm agnostic as to whether or not, these things are anti-Semitic or if they are, etc. I could care less. If somebody is guilty of committing a crime, I don't care who you are. Like, you're guilty. You've committed a crime. So really, this is what I go back to is always the law, meaning that, like, a lot of people, when they talk about October 7th and they talk about Hannibal Directive and they talk about, IDF and Israel and the Zionists, just read what Trump tweets. He says, "You sick bastards, you killed a lot of people. Law and justice is coming for you. Release these innocent people or we will mop you the fuck up." And we're not making empty threats. Like, I'm pretty sure Trump, if you want, he likes the Marine Corps story of the Marines invading Tunisia and Morocco and fighting Muslim pirates. Like, I assure you, I don't think Trump is going to have a problem deploying the fucking, 1st Infantry or some kind of Marine division to fucking go in there and blow those fuckers up and get these people out, whether they're dead or alive. I think there's like especially with Israel, because of that deep relationship. I mean, you've seen the meme. Well, I mean, Zelensky is a total piece of shit. But anyways, those are my thoughts,
Well, my thing is, and I do agree that for the most part, these are individuals at work, right? That your typical Orthodox New York Jew isn't,
right?
Raping and sex trafficking children. But
he's technically like Biggie. He's living outside his apartment complex, just hustling, trying to make some money for his baby.
Exactly. But here's the thing: if the Epstein files get released, the JFK files get released, and the 9/11 files, which are all three we've been told that these will be released at some point during Trump's administration.
No way, man. It's all going to be redacted. That is all bullshit. Top secret national secrets do not get released, meaning there's no paperwork on it. It's not. There's just nothing. There's nothing is going to come out that damages the credibility of the United States of America. That's just the way the government works.
Well, I was going to say is that if they end up being released, which they won't, and I get it, but it's just hypothetical and you can play along with me. If they all ended up 3 getting released, and all 3, again, have ties to Israel, in that if you talk to any conspiracy theorists, they all believe that Epstein had something to do, Israel had something to do with Epstein, Israel had something to do with 9/11, and Israel had something to do with JFK. If all 3 ended up being true, when would we say that Israel not our greatest ally? When would we say maybe they're probably the worst ally we've ever had?
I don't know what to tell you. Like, you can have fun with it, but you can read documents from 2,000 years ago where the government is talking about state secrets, in ancient Rome. So that's why I say you're talking about like state level secrets, which will never come out. They just won't, because they're either destroyed or buried or completely, sealed. Like, it's just nothing like that will come out ever. And I don't know about the JFK one. I saw something on X, but I just get the feeling that Lyndon Baines Johnson, it probably wasn't a Jewish thing. It was more like an internal assassination. So I just don't think it was external. I think, like, when you look at the history of assassinations and political takeovers, like, LBJ is probably the most guilty of anyone, because he, followed the one who benefits the most. So, LBJ. Now, whatever he did for Israel, I don't know. Do you know anything about the history of LBJ and Israel? Do you? I've seen something on it, but I don't. I just saw like some connections, like, between people, but nothing in terms of like, oh, the United States of America did this for the whole country of Israel in 1960 something, So that's where I'm at with that. I mean, this is like old news at this point. I mean, when Pam Biondi fucking put out the Epstein files, and you had people outside the White House with 3-ring binders holding up the Epstein files, and then you see a fucking blacked out page, that's when you know There's something there, but at the same time, there's nothing there. So that's life. Welcome to life, Keegan.
Well, what I know about LBJ LBJ's presidency after JFK. JFK, a few months before his assassination, like 3 months prior, he was pushing for nuclear inspections in Israel. He said that we should limit the allowing Israel to hold nuclear power. He did not believe that they were being forthright honest and they were concealing their weaponry. So he had very, very tough questions that he wanted Israel to answer. And then when LBJ came in, he decided, he concluded that Israel had nukes and that he was going to, they were going to keep them, that they were going to take them away.
Do you think the U.S. was going to try to take away a bunch of nuclear weapons from the state of Israel? But this, I mean, Keegan, the whole point is now is all important. So, I mean, again, the Ian Carroll and Joe Rogan thing, I think it's not anti-Semitism. They're trying to act as historians. And so, again, they bring you back to the now, which is, okay, Israel is a superpower in the Middle East now. And so the history information, though interesting, is completely useless. I mean, for God's sakes, Saudi Arabia wants a nuclear weapon. Everybody wants a nuclear weapon. Who doesn't want to have an incredible nuclear weapon? I think it's really dangerous to have a nuclear weapon. Personally, I wouldn't want to own one. Would you? It's a lot of management. Got to have a lot of money and technical expertise. I mean, imagine if you got a nuke bomb in Riyadh and then it starts like malfunctioning, and then you're like, oh, fuck. We don't even know how to build these things, let alone take them apart. What are we going to do? We got to call in some American scientists to come in here and explain to us how this weapon system works.
Well, really German scientists, too,
Yeah, no, but they're mostly all Americans now, so.
No. Well, actually, many, because I looked this up, there's actually more German scientists in our nuclear development programs than there are American scientists right now in 2025. Germany still is producing some of the highest, I guess, intelligent rates for science, for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah. Well, it's a big country and they have a lot of money and they're dedicated to education. They have a lot of universities. Everyone is well educated. It's like an expectation. It's a cultural thing. But look at this country right now. Trump is a German. Elon Musk is a German. So I know you like the Germans. And the Germans have an incredible work ethic. They're workaholics. Elon Musk is like killing himself. I mean, you can hear him high on ketamine every night on X, basically doing a word salad hyperverbalization, and you're like, is this guy okay?
Does he ever do Adrian Dittman anymore, or no? Is he done with that?
Yeah, he went live 2 nights ago. He didn't go live last night, but he knows, he keeps talking about cognitive security, and he believes that, he knows everything is recorded. So he's very cautious now about what people say. And many of his guests say very controversial, outrageous things, and they say the exact same thing that you just said, that the J words killed Kennedy. So if Elon Musk is distributing that message, the media will have a frenzy with it. So he's very careful now what he's saying. He's very aware that he can't just go on his X platform and say whatever the fuck, he tells the people that he's had on there, you cannot come on this show anymore and just say whatever you want. Like, we have to have more responsibility in terms of like what we're talking about. So, but again, he's high on ketamine and he's tripping. So like 2 nights ago, he's sitting there hyperverbalizing. Like, no one even cares what he's saying because he's sitting there philosophizing high on ketamine. And then he's posting all these mystic sage memes about talking to the glowing orb.
I feel bad, though. Excuse me.
Feel bad. Why?
Because they make it seem like every time they bring it up, it's just this anti-Semitic thing that comes up, and I'm tired of it. Like they act like this is a surprise. Like she didn't tell them fuck them 50 times on this app already. You know what I mean? This is not new.
You're definitely right about that. That's a lot.
What's that? That's like a size.
A slew of breaking stories that are occurring this afternoon. Hello there, Andrew. Welcome, Mark and McCut and Meme and LS. Good to see you, Joshua. Boy, I'll tell you what, people are coming into the room just as fast and furiously as the news today. Oh, boy. Hi there, Tina. Joshua, did I say hi to you? If not, I'm doing it now. If so, you get a double dose of greetings and salutations. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Critical. Thrill you
Please
with
leave your
toss up in the
message
rules. And Dominic, welcome up to the stage. So much going on. By the way, the president said today that Russia must make a peace deal from their perspective for reasons only he knows. I don't know what that means. Aziz, good to see you. Met as always.
This call may be recorded for quality assurance. Thank you for calling Firestone Complete Auto
I'll
Care.
toss out the room rules in just a
Schedule an
moment.
appointment, please press 1. To
And
check on the
today's
status of your vehicle
gathering will
or
be a wee
to
bit different from
Hey, this is John Kitover. I dropped off a silver Lexus this morning. I was wanted to call and check on the status of it. Yes.
Complete Auto Care, we're a one-stop shop for all your car maintenance and repair needs. We'll inspect your car bumper to bumper, top to bottom.
I see them on the
Make
stage,
sure you and your car
may
get
not
back on the road
coincide
running
with the
safe
order
and
in which you
sound.
see
Go to
yourself. So if it
FirestoneComplete.com.
appears that
See all the ways we help keep your car running newer longer. The word complete is in our name for a reason. It stands for the complete range of services performed by our expert technicians. Everything from tires, brakes, and oil changes to complete vehicle inspections. It also stands for our complete commitment to keeping your car running newer longer and keeping everyone in our neighborhood completely safe on the road. That's a lot of horsepower for just one word.
censored, but only an opportunity to make it possible for me to not.
Hey,
Yeah, so my thing is we're still taking a look at it. We should have an update for you shortly.
okay, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Officially from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. New York time at about 5 minutes to 6. We will no longer be inviting people onto the stage. But if at the 6 o'clock hour you are already on stage and in queue, we will go into extra time to give everybody an opportunity to speak. So with that, I welcome you to the Critical Thinking Forum. We're going to get started in a very short period of time. I also invite you to click on the link above, which will take you to the Critical Thinking Forum community chat on Facebook, and you may join and you may participate. It's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you're welcome to comment on the topics we discuss in the room, typically, before, during, and after the time we have together here on Clubhouse. And today would be a good day to do so because I have listed all of the breaking news. It's almost like I flooded the room. I did flood the chat. There was so much going on today, and it was rapid fire, the breaking news. And in one case, I posted one thing, and then within 5 minutes, that changed. So I'm going to go over it here at the top of the hour in reverse chronological order. So it may seem a little disjointed, but that's how we're going to do it. By the way, also, at the Critical Thinking Forum page, group chat, there are two links, one to a Substack essay that I wrote and one to a Medium essay that Dr. Francine wrote, which is apropos to our discussion today. And with that, we are now at the top of the hour. Welcome to the Critical Thinking Forum. We are here Monday through Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. New York time. Generally, I say we pick a topic and we stick to that topic. And you know that when people stray from the topic, I try to redirect them to ensure that we don't get distracted by different agendas that folks may have. We try to keep it on one issue. And I think that's a good programming decision on my part, and it has worked really well, and I've stuck to it until today. And the reason I have not stuck to it today is because so many things have occurred that I just can't, in good conscience, grab one of them and say, this is what we're going to talk about. So I am going to just list in reverse chronological order the things that I have taken note of today, this afternoon, the last 2 hours precisely. And I implore you to please pay attention because there's a lot I'm going to throw at you. And welcome Marshall, Anson, Norm, and Paul as well. Okay, again, it may be jumping a little bit around from one item to the next, but as I said, I'm just going to bring it to you in reverse chronological order. Okay, so there's a story that Politico broke just moments ago that says that top Trump allies are holding secret talks with Zelensky's opponents over Ukraine. Secret Ukraine talks underway with Zelensky's opponents. Now, the president did say in a little gaggle that he held in the Oval Office not too long ago that Russia is motivated to come to a peace treaty for reasons he only knows. I have no idea what that means. But that's what he said. Okay, another story that's very much related. Europe is stepping up to the plate in its own defense. This is the headline from the AP. EU leaders meet for emergency summit on defense and Ukraine aid amid waning U.S. support. Now, this is something the president has been pushing for a long time. He has complained that some of the EU nations who are members of NATO have not paid their fair share to NATO. This comes as no surprise to anyone. His recent actions, including the Oval Office verbal scuffle with Zelensky and his withdrawing of aid and intelligence to Ukraine, is really motivating the Europeans. It could be all of what he is doing is a bargaining chip to get the EU to move off the dime. Today, at that summit, it appears that that's exactly what is occurring. The other thing has nothing to do with Ukraine, but this is also from AP, and the headline is Trump changes course and delays some tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Interestingly, I had posted a story that said that Trump had delayed some tariffs on Mexico, but had not with Canada. And then within 5 minutes, the story broke that Canada was also now included in this delay of tariffs. I will point you in the chat linked above to Dr. Francine's article, which may explain this philosophy of major decisions being made by the administration that they then back off on. Because apparently, and she used to work on in the tech sector, this is not uncommon in the tech sector, that people will make major changes until there's a huge pushback, and then they'll say, okay, this wasn't a good idea, but the ones that there wasn't a major pushback on, we will stick with. These will be the ones that we move back to the previous policy on. It's a technique to help them determine what may be the best course to take. I don't get it. I really don't understand it, but that is a technique. And that may be what's going on here today, and it might be instructive to read her essay, which is linked to in the chat. But at any rate, there's now a rollback on some of those tariffs. There's another major rollback that we're going to get to in just a second. Ukraine peace talks are scheduled in Saudi Arabia for next week. That's also something that the Associated Press reported on. And then the one that I think started it all off for me this afternoon, and that is Trump clips Musk's wings. And he's put new limits on Elon Musk. It's so-called Doge, and I say so-called because they call it a department, but it really isn't a department. No longer will unilaterally make cuts to any government agency. They will make recommendations for cuts, and then it will be up to the various agency heads and cabinet members to decide which one of those cuts or how many of those cuts ought to be adopted. However, even as the president explained to reporters, and by the way, this was a cabinet meeting that he presided over, and Musk was there, where he announced this change in policy. But even with that, he does leave the door open for Musk to go back to unilaterally cutting the various budgets. He said we have capable people who are in the positions, who are in a good position to look at these recommendations that come from Doge and decide how to implement them or whether to implement them. But if they fail to take the kind of action that he believes is necessary, he will give the power back to Musk to do it himself. And this also, I believe, speaks to what Dr. Francine wrote in her essay. You push, 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 and then when there is pushback to your pushing out, then you retreat to a position that is palatable more so to, I don't know, the general population in this case, maybe to his cabinet heads who are saying, Mr. President, please let me run my department. I was running a department in private industry, and I was approached by management above my pay grade, and I was told to lay off certain people within my department. And I was indignant. And I said, wait a minute, I've got a budget, and you want me to cut the budget? Yes. Well, shouldn't I be the one to decide who I'm letting go? Not somebody else? It was very similar. It was somebody who was making recommendations to the CEO and gave the CEO the names of the people who they thought I ought to lay off. And I thought, well, you know, you can play the numbers game and say that I have to cut the budget, but you're not in a position to tell me who I should let go, who I need the most, who's contributing the most. If I'm running the department, that's my decision to make. And I pushed back, and I was successful because he was going to lose me as the head of that department right at that moment. That's how strongly I felt about this. So I can relate to whatever behind the scenes discussions may be going on from the cabinet members and the various agency heads who he just appointed. He's only been back in office a little over a month. So here you are, a big supporter of the president. He presumably trusts that you are capable of running your department. He puts you in that position, and you're all piss and vinegar ready to rock and roll and carry out the president's vision, and suddenly somebody comes in and usurps you and says, I'm going to decide for you where the cuts need to be made. I can totally relate to that kind of a pushback. And also, might I suggest, the president is a populist. We know that. He wants to be liked. I don't think anybody would argue that statement. And I've talked to a lot of people who are huge Trump supporters. They're MAGA folks who are appalled not by what they've been attempting to do, but the manner in which it has been prosecuted by Mr. Musk. They feel very uncomfortable, and they're speaking out loud about it, which in my experience, the MAGA folks I know are reticent to really criticize what the president is doing. They criticize his form, but not his substance. Well, a lot of
my friends who are huge Trump supporters are not happy about the, I call it the sledgehammer approach, but maybe we should call it the chainsaw approach for obvious reasons of Mr. Musk. And now we see the president pulling back on the reins a little bit here, and we'll see where this leads us and whether the cuts that are coming in the various departments will be a little bit more judicious. It's quite embarrassing. Not the court challenges, which sometimes reverse the cuts. As I don't find that embarrassing. I find that part of the process. But I think it's embarrassing to the administration that they, without proper analysis, remove people from their employment, and then almost immediately, probably the head of the department or one of the subordinates to the head of the department brings out how vital these people are to the operation, and then they have to, as the term has been called, unfire them. That's pretty embarrassing. And so Musk was there, so I don't think he was blindsided by the president's pronouncement. He said it right in front of him. And at least as of right now, 5:14 p.m. Eastern Time, Musk has lost some of his unilateral authority as far as where this stands at 6:15 p.m. I have no way of knowing because things are changing extremely rapidly today, as I pointed out, and that's why we're taking a broad stroke to our discussion today, and I hope this works. We will see. I will open it up to folks to now join in the conversation in the order in which I see them, and today that order begins with Marshall.
Hey Gary, how you doing?
I am good.
I'm glad that the president has decided to put some limits around Musk. I think it's a good idea. The idea of him being unaccountable or nearly unaccountable, I think, disturbs a lot of Americans. Insofar as that's not the way government is usually run, and so people are just not used to that. And I was inside Staples doing something, so I don't have a ton to say other than that, actually. So I'll go ahead and leave it there.
Wait a minute. You were inside the stable?
No, Staples.
Staples.
I had a giant bucket of old batteries, and then Callahan doesn't take them, and TCEQ, Texas Environmental Quality, doesn't take them, but apparently Staples does. And
That's really good to know, because most people just take them and toss them into the trash, and that's not good for the environment.
It can pollute the groundwater, make it undrinkable.
Right. Well, I thought you said stables, and I had the impression of you with horses on the border with Mexico, and and if that was the case, Marshall, I might change my vacation plans to impose upon you, because wouldn't that be great, just riding along the Rio Grande Valley on a horse to check out what's going on over there? Although apparently there's not much action any longer because they buttoned down the border pretty well. But anyways, thank you for that, Marshall. Scott.
Well, Gary, it's good to be here. As always, my friend. And fast and furious things are. But this is, again, as Steve Bannon said, muzzle velocity, man. I don't think this is accidental. I think it's by design. But yeah, this is pretty wild. Just a lot happening at once. I think the Musk thing probably seemed to some degree inevitable at some point. Look, even Bannon only made it, a year. What did he say when he got fired? He said, I made it 53 Scaramucci's, because I think the mooch only lasted a week. But Yeah, I mean, I think Trump is incredibly sensitive to media coverage, right? And he's coming off a State of the Union where he's got great numbers, right? I know, of course, it's probably a more Republican viewing audience. I mean, that's the conventional wisdom, right? The opposition doesn't watch as much. It was certainly true anecdotally. I was one of the few friends on my own left that watched, because I love watching Trump. I could watch Trump all day. I just find him so entertaining and sometimes so absurd, but just never boring. But Trump is so sensitive to media, right? He consumes a lot of media coverage, and he knows damn well that Elon's not playing well everywhere. And look, I mean, some of the stuff is eventually, as the media gets this out there, and I think people have some questions, and is this reckless? Is this too much, too fast? So I think this is, I think this is pretty prudent to sort of say, hey, I'm paring this back a little bit. I think it's a pretty prudent move. It doesn't mean Elon's out yet, right? He's just doing something prudent, right? Hey, we're going to have a little bit of a process here, instead of having Elon with the chainsaw and his team of 20-year-olds. Saturday Night Live parodied this pretty well I guess it was last weekend maybe, when Mike Myers was playing Elon, and he came in with his intern, Big Balls, who was bragging about
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and then Big Balls was like the 21-year-old, and he was saying, "Hey, we just hacked in and fired 3 people for the Joint Chiefs, all black and women." And I mean, it was, but I mean, this sense, right? And it's a good parody, but this sense that this is just adding the norm and bringing it a little more into normative culture is probably a smart move. Yeah, I mean, we've got peace negotiations coming up. We will see. This is interesting. I wonder if he'll continue to, give Zelensky a hard time. It is funny. I can't help but bring it up again. That so many of my friends remind me you're going into a negotiation and you can't say bad things about Putin. You can say bad things about Zelensky all you want. That's fine, but not Putin. So it's just very interesting. So. Yeah, it is breakneck. It is at a breakneck pace, Gary. And, my seatbelt is buckled, even though this is one of the few libertarian things about me, Gary. I don't like wearing seatbelts. I do it. I do it begrudgingly. I do it with a little bit of a sort of defiance. But my seatbelt is buckled, and I'm here for the ride. Thank you, Gary, and God bless.
Did you know that, what do we call it?
Marshall, you're not making the trip. You're not making the trip.
I'm not. No, I forgot. It happens. Oh well.
Scott, I know your area of expertise is not physics, but I would just point out that car crashes don't kill people. It's the secondary collision between the individual and the car.
Gary, I do it. I buckle up. I don't like it, but I do it. But
I just want to point out that when the car is going 60 miles an hour and it suddenly stops, the individual in the car is still going 60 miles an hour. So just imagine if you're standing on the street and a car is going 60 miles an hour and it hits you, although in this case, you're hitting the car. So I know you do it, but you say you do it begrudgingly, and I just wanted to give a shout out to seatbelt use.
Do you want me to do it joyously, not begrudgingly, Gary?
No, I'm just glad you do it. But I don't understand how that's a libertarian standpoint. Well, they can't tell me that I have to. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, it is. It's the only ounce of libertarianism in me, right? That just just don't tread on me. I don't want to buckle my seatbelt, but I do.
Would the libertarians argue that as many people as you can pack into an elevator is okay, but the rule that only X number of occupants can ride in an elevator? Anyway, that's another issue. But this is where the extreme libertarianism doesn't make much sense.